Aloha mai kākou.
Aloha.
My name is Candace Fujikane. I am an English professor at the University of Hawaii. I'm also a board member of KAHEA, the Hawaiian Environmental Alliance. KAHEA has sent in testimony opposed to this bill, but I'm speaking on my own behalf today, and we have another board member who will read our statement. I teach the mo'olelo of Mauna Kea, and I'm happy to see, Senator Kahele, that you've read the 2009 Comprehensive Management Plan, which I also teach in my classrooms. And I teach the students how to analyze these kinds of documents. And I want to say that I do not support the university's management of Mauna Kea. I oppose their management. But I also have serious questions, and I'm opposed to this bill. I oppose Senate Bill 3090, SD1, and for these reasons. To me, the makeup of the Mauna Kea Management Authority is deeply problematic. They are comprised mainly of business interests. So you have, 1, the Director of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, 2, a representative of a statewide business organization, 3, a representative of a business organization on the island of Hawaii. And you also have the Director of the East-West Center, which I'm not quite sure how that fits in. But these comprise mainly business interests. And we're concerned about the protection of Mauna Kea. We have so much aloha for Mauna Kea. Ka makahiapo kapu na Wakea. So this is a place that is so sacred to us, and there is no protection for the conservation district and the sacred land that it is. Now, this conservation district, none of the people who are going to be members of this MKMA are qualified in any particular way to manage a conservation district that is concerned about water. And you've mentioned the hydrology sources on Mauna Kea. It sits on the Waimea Aquifer, but it also the science reserve sits on 4 other aquifers as well. And so we're very concerned about that protection. Now, I notice in Section 3, and it's embedded under Section 3, but there is a reference to the authority's day-to-day operations being led by the executive director. Who will this executive director be? There is so much attention paid to the business interests, but very little attention paid to this executive director, whose responsibility will be to oversee 6 divisions. And number 2 lists culture and environment, which shall be led by a chief culture and environment officer and be responsible for the protection, preservation, and appreciation of cultural and environmental resources within the authority's managed areas. And we have this is the most important part of this bill, and yet it's given a very scant paragraph. This is what all members of this board should be made up of, people who can oversee this conservation district, which protects the water of Hawaii Island.
Thank you. Quick question then.
Yes.
So you started off your testimony saying you do not support the university.
No, I do not.
So did you in your comments submit recommendations on how to amend the bill and how to address the issues that you and or KAHEA has with the bill?
I think that the composition of this authority has to include people who are, 1, culturally knowledgeable of Mauna Kea, but also have a responsibility to Native Hawaiian communities. Just because people are Native Hawaiian doesn't mean that they represent Native Hawaiian communities. And one of my concerns is that you could have a member from the Royal Order of Kamehameha who supports the TMT. And that is my concern. When you have ex officio members, they are in no way qualified for such an important decision-making position. So that is my concern, is there needs to be people who are both, KAHEA looks at the intersection of cultural practices and environmental concerns. We need people who can speak at that intersection. I would say many of the petitioners in the contested case hearing, they know these documentations in and out.
Dignitaries of the United States of America. I just want to address, I know I want to keep it simple and within the 3 minutes as well. I'm a 37-year-old combat veteran, humanities degree, baccalaureate degree from HPU. I'm also working on a history and politics at Chaminade University. I've lived in Hawaii 10 years from the Ahupua'a Waimanalo. I've taken Hawaiian studies at Kapiolani and Windward Community College. And from what I'm not going to speak for Healani, but I think the reason why, and we keep asking why we oppose the bill, is because legally, according to international law, which is a class of kingdom studies, which is offers at UH Manoa by Dr. Sai, to us students, is that this is not the United States. This is illegally occupied by the military, United States military only, belligerently occupied. So when Kanaka Maoli say they oppose the bill, they're opposing that they're addressing this issue as United States citizens. They are addressing it as country of Hawaii citizens, sovereign and Kanaka Maoli. I just want to come from my culture, which was the first democracy of the United States, my kupuna. They met with the founding fathers of the United States. And this is the first confederacy, which I'm wearing on my head, is the Cayuga Nation, part of this confederacy. Now, I've seen thousands of years of desecration to my tribe, and I'm not here to speak for Hawaiians, but I'm here to speak as a 10-year Hawaii United States citizen, which I believe I have dual citizenship. I believe the conflict resides in international law. I don't think it even resides in domestic United States law. I know for a fact that Kanaka Maoli are part of a kingdom and a country, and they should be addressed as such. So when people say they oppose this bill, that's where they're coming from, I believe, my personal belief. I think Mauna Awakea should be remembered for its unique species of plants, mountains, peaceful mountain air, and massive star galaxy, and not a man-made telescope where there's going to be pollution and waste and all sorts of more desecration. The fact that an 18-story telescope would be erected on top of the most sacred Papahana Moku.
We're not talking about this telescope. Can you please keep your comments to the contents of the bill?
Okay, according to the bill, I believe it's been mismanaged, and
What
they need
has been
to come to some
mismanaged?
sort of diplomatic resolution. Thank you very much, Senator.
My name is Shelly Monioka, and I'd like to also submit strong opposition to Senate Bill 3090 SD1. You have my written testimony already, so I wanted to address actually some previous comments before I get into my own comments. You were asking, how does the $1 a year make sense? And I think clearly it doesn't, but I just wanted to clue everybody in that the last time UH made the attempt to renegotiate the general lease, that they actually asked not even to pay for $1 a year, but to have it be free, which was totally insulting, but to me showed the hand of what the motivations of the university are in terms of, they're claiming that they're moving towards a new day. But to me, that said that that's not really the case. First and foremost, the process by which this bill has come to fruition is highly problematic, as it didn't involve meaningful and ongoing engagement, not mere consultation with the community. Any representation otherwise is false. A Pono Management Authority will not likely follow a tight legislative timeline, and it will be created by the community, not something created by the state that merely asks for comments. This is the crux of the Pilikia and Mauna Kea. The people are demanding a shift in power, and the state is reluctant to let that happen. So this bill only serves to further entrench the authority over our sacred mountain within the state, which heretofore we all agree has not taken good care. So while I think this bill should be killed, not amended, I would like to offer some comments on the particularly problematic sections of the bill. And respectfully, Senator Kahele, I think it's problematic that you're framing that if we oppose the bill that we support UH's management on Mauna Kea. I don't support their management either, but I think that this bill is not the way to move forward for us at this juncture. So The current draft would authorize this proposed authority to approve or disapprove all projects, and further provides that the rules of this authority shall supersede all conservation district rules. This language alone is reason to scrap the bill. The trust in the relationship with the community is badly damaged and in a fragile state, and so this kind of language serves to alert the constituents that the intention of this bill is to erode the protections that are currently in place for the Wawakua that the state generally calls a conservation district. So an argument may be made that more stringent criteria could be put forth by this authority, but that ambiguity is too great a risk, and so until concrete language around what those rules would be, there's no way that we could ever support this kind of bill. Plus, we're also well aware that favorable language could be added in to make the bill palatable and then taken out before the final reading, and so that's a testament to the way that this process is not appropriate for what we're trying to achieve. The power is unequal and the process is opaque. Candace talked a lot about the makeup of the management of the board. The thing that I really wanted to hit on was the fact that the Senate President, the House Speaker, and the Governor would be able to...
Thank you.
Can I finish my sentence?
Sure.
Would be able to appoint so many members on the board, and that specifically what we don't want is political posturing on the board that would have decision-making authority over Mauna Kea.
Thank you.
Yeah, mahalo.
Thank you, Shelley. John Osorio? John, will you be the first to Olelo Hawaii?
Sorry?
With our interpreters?
Kanae. However, I'll let you know. I'll hiki au ke offer iko testimony maka Olelo Hawaii. Kanae. You can call someone else right after me if you like. Thank you for having this hearing, and thank you for for introducing this bill. I do oppose it, and as you know, Senator Kahele, I also oppose the continued management of the mountain by the University of Hawaii, and with the cooperation of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. You've raised the question about why people who would oppose this bill when we also oppose the current management. And my answer is to basically point back to the things that Candace Fujikani said. We have a problem with the people who are specifically named in this bill as being a part of this new management team. I'm going to say very simply that in the conversations that you held with us back in December and I think in January, although I wasn't at that meeting in Hilo, the overwhelming wish that was expressed by the people there, certainly in December, members of the Mauna Kea Hui, was that there would be a new community-based management that would really come from their expertise and from their experiences on the mountain. As a Hawaiian studies professor for many years, my fervent belief is that we have, over the past 40 years, as a people, become quite able to sit in these kinds of committees and adjudicate properly for the Aina, for the communities, and yes, even for the business community. And it's troubling to see that this bill basically extends a bias toward the financial interests in the state that we usually do. So I'm begging that we not do this anymore, that we completely rethink how we administer, especially public trust lands and conservation lands. And to that end, I propose a moratorium on any further construction on that mountain, any further issuance of licenses or extensions of lease until your people, the legislature, have a chance to really get acquainted with who is actually intimate with that mountain and who's actually involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Laulani Teo. Aloha, Laulani.
Aloha, Senator Kahele and members of the committee. Mahalo for this opportunity to testify. I really appreciate it. I'm speaking today basically as someone who's been involved in Mauna Kea, both in terms of the protection of Mauna Kea and also in terms of the building of peace. I have a project called the Ho'oponopono Peace Project, and we work with Ho'oponopono and with and with different kinds of cultural conflict resolution throughout the community. Today, I am opposing this bill, but I want to say, first of all, that the intention of the bill is very clear, and I really, really appreciate it. Mahalo. This is the best that has been done in many, many ways, and that is very maikai. In terms of an attempt for the legislature to actually take a bold stand in terms of what the people have clearly said needs to happen. And so mahalo nui loa for that. I've also been aware of the discussions that have been taking place. I haven't participated in those discussions, but I have been aware of them and following what's been happening. And I would like to mahalo you for taking that initiative to make that happen, and also to everyone here who's participated in that in good faith, because that is a tremendous, tremendous work to come together and really talk about what is needed. And I do understand that consensus was achieved on certain very important things, such as the audit, such as other things, and those are extremely important. So mahalo nui loa for those things. The reason that I am primarily opposing this bill is basically because it's too early for it. And that is the difficulty here. As someone who works in Ho'oponopono, who works in consensus building, consent is a very sacred concept. The consent of everyone who's involved. So when you call people together in that sacred space of peacemaking, it is very, very important to honor the mana'o and the decisions that come from that space. And if those are heard, but something else is done as though that was the decision that was made, it can be very hurtful. So, I know we've been through so much Mauna Kea stuff here. There are very few things that Mr. Ishibashi and myself agree on, but I would say that in this, I very much support what I'm hearing from him and others, that consent, that consensus is of ultimate importance, and I encourage you to please take this bill, put it aside, stop this particular attempt, and go back to that place where movement went forward without that consent. Go back there and build that true consensus. You are doing very well. Please continue.
Thank you. Mahalo.
I'm going to speak on behalf of Kahea, but also add a little bit of my own testimony because we already submitted our written. So basically, our strong opposition to this bill stems from what I perceive to be its overriding concern for financial gain, or at least its interest in finances when it comes to a place that is very sacred. We have 3 points that we would like to make. So specifically, our concerns regard the processes by which this bill has been developed, its approach to Mauna Kea sacred summits, and the proposals it offers with regard to governance. So I'll quickly summarize our concerns in these 3 areas. So the bill we see is as a result of a flawed process. This has already been explained, and I'll kind of echo Auntie Laulani in saying that consent is a process that needs to be built, and we see this as a kind of template that's being folded out with an empty boxes, and then the community is being asked to trust that those empty boxes are filled in such a way that fulfills the desires and the values of the community. There should be a little bit more of a collaborative process, we believe, in creating this. With regard to the wrong approach to governing Mauna Kea, we see this not necessarily as, quote, a new model for governance and management of Hawaii's most precious resources. We see it kind of as more of the same. with regards to the ways in which it incentivizes economic development, especially because it charges the proposed body with self-funding. We see this as potentially becoming an overriding interest, that at some point it becomes more interested in funding itself and less interested in maintaining what is already designed as preservation land, and which is, more importantly, considered sacred land. And then lastly, we see this as potentially paving the way for more development. So for nearly a decade, our organization has made it clear that TMT must not be allowed in Mauna Kea's conservation district, and our position is unchanged. This bill potentially would authorize MKMA to approve or disapprove all projects on Mauna Kea, and that superseding authority troubles us. And so I'll return to this point that was actually stated better by those before me, but the state must stop legislating and delegating authority over our community's identity, ancestry, kuleana, and access to religious and ceremonial rights. Empower and organize the communities that have shown their commitment to protecting Mauna Kea to come up with our own management plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Logan. Bianca Fusaki? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Aloha, Senators. My name is Bianca Isaki. I've worked on community advocacy for Mauna Kea since about 2011, and I'm opposed to SB3090. A new model of governance is needed, but this bill does not provide that. It repeats a wrong-headed approach directed at resolving conflict, but conflict isn't the problem. The problem is overdevelopment of the Mauna. The management authority is set up for development. SB 3090 provides a one-stop shopping for project design review, leasing, conservation district use permitting, if that still applies, under the new rules, environmental impact statement approvals, and any historic preservation or burial treatment impacts review. It exempts its executive director and employees of its six divisions from collective bargaining and civil service laws. Facilitating development on Mauna Kea is the opposite lesson that we should have learned from litigation and contested case hearings on the 30-meter telescope. There is no fixing this bill. You cannot present a pre-formed template and ask the community to trust you to fill in the blanks. Management and governance of Mauna Kea must proceed from a truly community-based process that builds trust amongst people who have shown their commitment to protecting the Mauna. That's my testimony. Thank you.
Thank you so much.